get all the way get here. He's going to be in so much trouble today, isn't he?
How do I agree to do this again?
Mike? Or are we missing? Mike? Ralph Martin, where's he at?
Hey, Roland, our guys are all in the shade, right? No one falling out.
Do we know where Ralph is?
I'll handle it.
No, you...
No. Okay.
I think it's heavy, isn't it?
It is.
Sure, of course.
Oh, no.
It's kind of eerie.
So we have a row of seats up here. The negative is that it's in the sun, but the positive is it's fur-lined, very comfortable. So if you want to come on up, I think it's actually all lined up for the commanders. Any commanders want to come out and take those seats.
Hi.
Sheriff, where's your guys?
It started. I gotta go.
Ready, Renee?
Sure.
Good afternoon. My name is Barry Donlan. I'm president of the Oakland Police Officers Association. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this rather unique ceremony today, in which we're going to honor all 86 peace officers that have died in the line of duty in Alameda County since the county's inception. A little over a year ago, a group of retired peace officers discovered that 10 of our 86 heroes who died in the line of duty had no grave markers. Today, in the culmination of over a year-long project, all the grave markers will be in place, and we come here on the 150th anniversary of the death of Oakland police officer Richard B. Richardson to honor him with his beautifully marked grave. At this time, I'd like to introduce the dignitaries who are present. If you could hold your applause for the end. Up front is Alameda County Sheriff Gregory Ahern, along with members of his command staff. Oakland Assistant Police Chief John Loyce, members of the command staff. Alameda County District Attorney Nancy O'Malley, and Chief of Inspectors Robert Chenault. From the Alameda County 100 Club, President Ralph Martin. And finally, the founders of the Alameda County Heroes Grave Project, retired Alameda Sheriff's Lieutenant James Knudsen and retired Oakland Police Officer Michael Wozniak. Please welcome our dignitaries. At this time, I would have all of you stand for the posting of the colors by a joint Alameda County Sheriff's Office and Oakland Police Department Honor Guard, and then remain standing while Miss Janice Maxey Reed sings America the Beautiful.
Other turn. Mark. Host. Color. Oh, word. Art.
Please be seated. I ask Reverend Kenneth Paris, a retired lieutenant with the Oakland Police Department, to please come up for the invocation.
On this solemn occasion, we remember this passage from Holy Scripture. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Let us pray. Most gracious God, we gather here today to honor the 86 peace officers of Alameda County who have given their lives in service to their community. And in particular, we remember on the 150th anniversary of his death, Oakland police officer Richard B. Richardson, and to dedicate and consecrate this new grave marker. Officer Richardson was the first law enforcement officer in Alameda County to be killed in the line of duty. We give thanks for Officer Richardson's service and sacrifice to our community. We regret the years that have passed where this hero laid in an unmarked grave, but are thankful for the work of the Alameda County Heroes Grave Project in locating his final resting place and arranging for this marker to be placed here in Officer Richardson's memory and honor. By our presence and our prayers, we dedicate and consecrate this marker to his honor. May we ensure that Officer Richardson's service and sacrifice never be forgotten by future generations. All this we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Paris. Now I'd like to invite retired Lieutenant James Dickinson from the Alameda County Sheriff's Office and retired police officer Mike Wozniak of the Oakland Police Department to come up and say a few words about the Heroes Grave project itself.
Thank you, Sergeant. I'll try a few words. How's the sound up there, ladies and gentlemen? Can you hear me all right up there? You can? Over there? Okay, thank you. Sergeant Donald mentioned 3 members of the Heroes Grave Project. So I want to start out by saying we're missing one, and that's retired officer Tim Sanchez. Most of you folks, I see the head shaking, know Tim. He had scheduled a trip to New York, bought his tickets about months ago, so he's back there, and I think he really wishes he was here. But I want to mention, quite frankly, I think Woz agrees with me, without Tim, we wouldn't be here today. He's the one that set up the website. He's the one that went to every cemetery in Alameda County, no question, along with Woz and I. So I'm going to ask you folks to know Tim in the next few weeks when you run into him. Nice little signal. Just say you were at the ceremony and give him a thumbs up. That's all you have to do. We checked 86 graves, as Sergeant Donald mentioned, and we sent text. We took a picture of the grave if it had a marker, send a text, Tim would send us a thumbs up. Or he'd find one and send us a text, he'd send us a thumbs up. So I think that'd be great if you just say you were at the ceremony and give him a thumbs up. Okay, I want to take a minute to tell you how it began. Both Tim Sanchez and I like the history, police history in our county. And when I first started the Oakland Police Department 50 years ago, I saw his name at the top in the lobby, at the top of that beautiful memorial there, 1867. And I always wondered about that. So years later, Tim and I are going to do a talk at the Bay County's Peace Officers Group in Dublin. And we decided to research the story about Officer Richardson. And I went out to the Bancroft Library and found the original newspapers. And Tim went to the Oakland Police Department and did those things. Now, 2 days before the meeting where we're going to make this presentation, I come up here to the cemetery because I'd read in the newspapers that he was buried here at this beautiful place, Mountain View Cemetery. I could not find the gravesite. So I went down to the management here, the cemetery. I think some of them are here today. Hopefully they are, but we're going to introduce them, and you'll meet them a little later. But I want to mention Jeff Lindman. Is Jeff here? Can I raise your hand, Jeff, the manager? There he is right there. Thank you, sir. I went down there and said I couldn't find the gravesite. So he sent up staff and brought me up here. This is one of the oldest parts of the cemetery. The cemetery was formed in 1864. Jeff, am I right? 1864? And then our officer was killed in 1867. As Sergeant Donald said, 150 years ago to the day. So we went and did our presentation about what happened that day, that horrible day, and we told the guests that there was no grave marker. We couldn't believe there was no grave marker. The staff here dug down under the turf. The family plot is about 20 by 20. The new memorial is right in the middle of the plot. So they dug down hoping that the original marker was underground, and they weren't able to find anything. Frankly, we don't know what happened to the original marker. But we do know there's one here now. So we told the retired folks at this luncheon that we couldn't find a marker, and we thought maybe we should let's figure out a way to get one for this hero. And then Michael Wozniak, we call him Woz, as we know already, he brought up at the dinner or the luncheon that maybe we should take a look at the other officers, the other 86 heroes that lost their lives in Alameda County. So we formed our Heroes Grave Project. Tim Sanchez set up a website. I hope most of you folks have seen that. And we started collecting money, and we found 10, unfortunately. Actually, 13 grave sites that need work. 3 of them had to be restored. We were able to restore them and put 10 new markers on. Woz, in just a minute now, is going to tell you about where those locations are, how you can find out about them, and go visit those sites. In closing, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Officer Richardson and what it was like 150 years ago today. Oakland, much smaller. The city was located where West Oakland is today. It was about the third size of West Oakland. 1,500 people living in Oakland those days. 3 police officers for the Oakland Police Department. Just about 2 days after Officer Richardson was killed, the newspapers printed a story about the city council, called commissioners in those days, and they appointed a replacement for Officer Richardson, a gentleman by the name of Murphy, and he was appointed to what was called the Office of Patrolman. Just shows you an interesting time. Officer Richardson and his family lived on 4th Street, which is just about in the Jacqueline Square today. We think his home was a little farther west, towards West Oakland, but that's where he lived. Funeral was held at his house the day after the tragedy, as was the norm in those days. No coroner's facilities like we have today, of course. The newspapers talked about lined up horse-drawn buggies, a coroner's wagon, horse-drawn, and a number of horses for single mourners. And after the service at his house, which would be right about where Jacqueline Square is today, they came up here in a procession to this location. I'd like you to think about that a minute while I read something that was written in the paper. Oakland's original newspaper was called the Daily Journal, Oakland Daily Journal. I found it out at the Bancroft Library, like I mentioned earlier. So this is from October 24th, 1867, and I quote, "A long cavalcade followed the remains to Mountain View Cemetery, the largest funeral procession we have seen in the city for many years. At the gravesite service, the funeral rites of the Oddfellows was performed. A feeling of profound grief was expressed by all who were present. The community has lost an esteemed citizen and a faithful officer, and they, with reason, mourn his loss. Their sympathy is extended towards the helpless ones he has left behind. Unquote. Officer Richardson was 35 years old. He was married and had two small children, 2 little girls. Thank you very much, and now I'd like to turn it over to retired Officer Mike Wozniak. We call him Woz.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. It wouldn't have happened without you. Like Jim said, Tim Sanchez was responsible for an awful lot of this stuff. I'm just proud that I was able to be a small part of this. Mountain View Cemetery, Brazos Matos Monuments, it's a whole team that put this together. And like I told Jim before, if we didn't do this, it might not have been done for another 150 years, if at all. So with that, Barry Donlin, if anybody wants to know the location of any of the other tombstones, get a hold of me. I'll be here. I'll give you directions. I went around, I put American flags on them. There's 4 at St. Mary's. There's 2 more here. 1 in Irvington and 1 at Sunset in Albany. But we're going to do this here today for Richard Richardson, who was the first Alameda County law enforcement officer killed in the line of duty.
Now, if I can have our sheriff, Alameda County Sheriff Gregory Ahern.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's a great day that we have opportunity and the honor to show distinction to an officer that was killed in the line of duty. What I think is important is that our law enforcement partners are not forgotten. This is 150 years that he's been remembered. And quite frankly, if you in the audience or I pass away today, in 150 years, they're not going to be able to pronounce our names. We'll be forgotten, and it's really nice to know that somebody who sacrificed, dedicated their life to serving the City of Oakland as a peace officer is remembered. I'd like to thank my crew for being out here, the Honor Guard and the motor units, and joining with OPD today. I'd like to thank the audience for coming out here to show them the respect. We have some wives and spouses from other officers who have died in the line of duty. And once again, this is our message to you. They're not forgotten. They still stay in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts, and each and every day as a reminder of their great work, and their partnership with us still goes on. So to Mr. Richardson and his family, you're not forgotten, and you'll always be remembered.
Thank you, Sheriff. Now let me call upon Assistant Chief John Loyce to make some remarks on behalf of the Oakland Police Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Alameda County Heroes Grave Project for their dedication and commitment to ensuring that those police officers who unselfishly gave their lives while protecting and serving their community receive the proper recognition and respect they truly deserve. I would also like to echo the Sheriff's words and thank everybody in attendance today who came out to show your support and love for these fallen heroes. Thank you. I feel privileged to be speaking here today on behalf of the Alameda County Heroes Grave Project, a project that began in June 2016. After it was discovered the first police officer killed in the line of duty, Oakland Police Officer Richard B. Richardson, was buried in an unmarked grave. Officer Richardson made the ultimate sacrifice exactly 150 years ago today. and it is an absolute honor to be speaking at this dedication ceremony. On October 23rd, 1867, Oakland police officer Richard B. Richardson was attempting to execute a warrant in West Oakland on a squatter named John Thomas. This was not supposed to be a high-risk event. As a result, Officer Richardson jumped on his horse and responded without backup from City Hall. At that time, City Hall was located on Broadway between 3rd and 4th Street. Officer Richardson had no way of knowing he would be attempting to arrest what was later learned to be a very violent individual. Unfortunately, Officer Richardson was shot and killed when he entered the residence. John Thomas was later arrested and died while in jail. A little bit more about Officer Richardson that I found to be very relevant and interesting as I researched him. He was considered to be one of the best and bravest officers of his time. He was involved in many arrests during his career, which included a 300-mile pursuit of a suspect which led him to the mountains of Tulare. That's 3.5 hours by car today. Get there, so imagine that. Obviously back then, pursuits were not closely monitored and they were not canceled. It goes without saying that the law enforcement profession has undergone monumental changes during the last 150 years. However, the unpredictability and the inherent dangers associated with all those who have taken the oath to protect and serve has remained constant. Again, I would like to recognize and commend the Alameda County Heroes Grave Project for their perseverance and commitment to this very, very important project. Without their tireless efforts and the financial support of Open and many, many others, we would not be here today paying tribute to Officer Richard B. Richardson, an American hero. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And if you bear with me, I'm going to have Miss Janice Maxie Reed sing Imagine.
Hope
Thank you, Ms. Janice. Nice to read as always. Now I'll call upon our Alameda County District Attorney, Nancy O'Malley, to say a few words.
Thank you, and good afternoon. It's really, really humbling to be here today, to be part of this, I will say, recognition and celebration of the lives of the officers, particularly Officer Richardson and the others who gave their life for us, and the respect that is now being shown to make sure that their grave sites are marked. I was taken aback when I read about Officer Richardson and what happened to him. I was taken aback because he was a 35-year-old officer with a wife and a few children, and he went to serve an eviction notice. And as a result of that, he was killed in the line of duty. And I was taken aback because it just reminds us that then, 150 years ago today, just like today, that officers face danger every time they go out on the street. They don the uniform, they take on the responsibility of protecting us and put their lives on the line for us and for their community. So I'm not only honored to be part of this, but I'm incredibly humbled to be able to be here with you and pay witness to the events. First, thank you to the Alameda County Heroes Grave Project. What an incredible, incredible thing that you have done here. I will say that what I reflect on when I think about Officer Richardson, the 10 officers who, before this project began, did not have their grave marked, and the 86 police officers of Alameda County who have died in the line of duty. My heart and my prayers go out for all those officers who continue to don the uniform, who continue to go out into our streets and in our neighborhoods to protect us. The loss of life can never be taken for granted, and I'm just so incredibly thankful that Officer Richardson's and the other officers' lives will never be taken for granted. And those officers that serve us today, and those that will serve us tomorrow, and those that came before us, that we thank them every day for the service that they're paying to keep us safe. I also want to just say I thank Reverend Harris for his words. It was such a beautiful way to start today's ceremony, to really acknowledge the humanity and acknowledge the souls of those individuals who have gone on. And I'm very thankful that you shared that with us so we could all really appreciate the significance of what today means. Thank you very much.
And now we'll have the placement of flowers. Oh, sorry. Thank you, District Attorney O'Malley. Now, Ralph Martin, President of the 100 Club, and Lieutenant Kuntz, please come up for a presentation.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. There's someone here today that we need to thank a little more than the norm, if you will. Bob Matos from Bross and Matos Monument Company. Does anybody see him? We don't want him to sneak away here. See here? Where's he at? Point him out. There he is, right there. Okay. Our families know Bob Matos, know how he's helped folks over the years. His monument company is located on Mission Boulevard, across from the Catholic Cemetery in Hayward. That sounds like a commercial endorsement, because it is what this man has done for us. First thing we did on the Heroes Grave Project was go see him for advice and how we could do this, how we could put 10 monuments on heroes' graves. He didn't want any money. He donated the design, he donated the installation, all labor. We just paid for the grant itself, and he fought us big time for that. I told you I was going to embarrass you because we're proud of you, what you've done, what you've helped. We know we couldn't have done it without him. So the president of the 100 Club is here, and he has a presentation he'd like to make from the Heroes Grave Project, from all of us, and from citizens of Alameda County.
Thanks, Jim. Bob, you come up, please. Bob's been a big help to the 100 Club also. He's donated a lot of time and materials and was paramount in our erecting the memorial we have over at Lone Tree Cemetery in Hayward. So on behalf of the Heroes Grave Project, the 100 Club board members, and family members, Bob, I'd like to present you with the lifetime membership from the 100 Club. And that was sponsored by the Heroes Grave Project. Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to have placement of flowers.
Order. Out. All right. Right.
Thank you, Alameda County Deputy Steve Kidwell, for that rendition of Amazing Grace. And now, if we can all pause for a moment and bow our heads in reflection as we remember all 86 law enforcement officers who've been killed in the line of duty in Alameda County. Thank you. And now once again, Reverend Kenneth Paris shall return for the benediction.
Let us pray. May the Lord bless us and keep us. May the Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious to us. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. May the blessing of God Almighty, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be upon us and remain with us. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Paris. In closing, thank you for remembering our 86 heroes and bringing this noble project to a conclusion. Let us also acknowledge our heroes' survivors who lost their loved one in the service of our community. I would ask that all the survivors that are present here today please stand and be acknowledged with a round of applause from those present. This concludes this ceremony. Thank you to the founders of this project who you've met so far, Lieutenant James Knudsen, officers Mike Wozniak, and unfortunately not with us, Tim Sanchez. Thank you to Bob Matos, who made an enormous contribution, as you heard, to the successful conclusion of the project. And finally, thank you to Mountain View Cemetery, who provided all the logistics for this event, and all importantly, they're sponsoring lunch. Thank you for coming, and enjoy your lunch.
Need some help getting up?
I was trying to show you number 10 on this list. Yeah.
Much smaller.
True.
I do. So the meeting.
Too bad Tim couldn't be here. He's in New York.
I better actually back it out. I was getting to know.
Grab a bottle of water. I did. Grab a bottle of water.